The flickering light of Asia, or the Assyrian nation and church. The Assyrians, as a historic people, both in the interests of history and for the perpetuation of that history, should be created into a separate state. Their achievement in the past and their large contribution for the uplift of mankind, both in the educational endeavor and in the spreading of those pacifying influences which are the real backbone of civilization, entitle to the Assyrians to a recognition of their claim, a nation that has persisted through centuries of persecution in the declaration of her faith, and has sacrificed vast numbers of martyrs upon the altar of that faith, finds her greatest right to a recognition of her claim in her consciousness of moral and spiritual responsibilities, and also in the knowledge of her capability to resume the discharge of those humanitarian and self-sacrificing obligations. After the manner of the figure beheld by Moses, the fire of the Assyrian affliction has been terrific, but they have not been consumed. The historic nation has still a remnant left, sufficiently large to be created into a separate state. As a belligerent people who have risked more and sacrificed proportionally more, fighting on the side of the Allies, they are entitled to a realization of their claim for a separate state. As a belligerent people who entered into the war on the side of the Allies, in spite of the alluring inducements offered them by the Turkish government, the claims of the Assyrians for indemnities and reparation are entitled to the very first consideration. The very plight of their refugees calls for immediate attention. We have the most conclusive proofs to show that the Assyrians were urged by the official representatives of Great Britain, France, and Russia to enter into the war on the side of the Allies, and were induced into a state of belligerency with the most solemn promises of being given a free state. The Assyrians, therefore, having risked the very existence of their nation, and having made such appalling sacrifices upon the altar of freedom, demand that these promises of the Allied governments now be honorably redeemed. The outrages perpetrated upon the Persian Assyrians should be indemnified, and all their material losses should receive full compensation, for the authorities directly responsible for the Assyrians' loss of life and property. In the interest of future peace and tranquility, some plan should be devised whereby Salamis and Urmia, including Targavar and Margavar, where the Assyrians abound, could be exchanged for some other place that would be perfectly satisfactory to the Persian government. The Assyrians demand a state bounded roughly by Tikrit below Zaba, in the south, and in the province of Diyarbakir, in the north, and by a straight line running parallel with the banks of the Euphrates in the west, to the mountains of Armenia in the east. The Assyrians realize that at least for 25 years hence, they will be incapable of self-government, and therefore they desire the supervision of a mandatorial power.